In the headline for this hour, VTV News. Prime Minister arrives in China for WEF annual meeting of new champions. And the State Bank of Vietnam extend debt payment terms to aid business recovery. In world news, Summer DAVOS 2024 emphasizes green principles.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello, it's 8 a.m. local time in Hanoi. You're watching VTV News. Continuing the 7th session on Monday morning, the National Assembly discussed the plenary session on the draft law on preventing and combating human trafficking amended.
Agreeing with the review report of the National Assembly Judiciary Committee, some National Assembly deputies suggested that the draft should cover the prevention of human trafficking in border areas.
As stated in Clause 4, Article 5 of the draft law, every year the state allocates a budget for the prevention and combat of human trafficking, prioritizing ethnic groups. However, human trafficking is still a serious situation in border areas, so I propose that this area should be included in the state budget allocation.
It is necessary to add border areas and vulnerable groups to Clause 4 of the draft law. Because border areas and places with complicated security and order are places where fraud and human trafficking are easy to commit. Vulnerable and disabled groups are also the targets of human trafficking crimes.
Some deputies suggested that there should be a legal basis to handle the increasing trends of buying and selling fetuses.
The new crime of buying and selling fetuses in the womb is a dangerous act for society, violating social ethics and traditional customs, so it is necessary to supplement criminal prosecution for cases of buying and selling fetuses.
The mother who sells her child is also an act that must be regulated as human trafficking. However, the law has not yet been regulated, so there is no basis for handling it. The law on preventing human trafficking also has no regulations on the above issue.
Some deputies said it is necessary to add regulations prohibiting acts of intentionally reporting, denouncing, accusing, or making false statements about preventing and combating human trafficking, and clarity on regulation exempting criminal liability and administrative sanction for victims forced to commit illegal acts. Consideration was also required for victims of sexual exploitation and forced labor.
Also on the same day, National Assembly deputy discussed the draft amended law on value-added tax VAT, in which they proposed carefully assessing and deliberating on whether fertilizer should fall under the category of goods subject to VAT at a rate of 5%. More to follow.
Fertilizer is an important input component of agricultural production and has significant impact on socio-economic development and people's lives, especially farmers. Therefore, National Assembly deputies requested further consideration for the application of a 5% value-added tax for fertilizers.
This regulation will benefit businesses as they no longer have to deduct input VAT tax or calculate the cost of fertilizer products. However, the fertilizer market in Vietnam will be greatly affected. We need to clarify how much fertilizer prices will increase or decrease.
If the law still keeps the 5% tax on fertilizers, farmers will have make up a loss of up to $235 million. If the draft law applies 0% VAT to fertilizer products, about $78 million will be used to support businesses and farmers.
There are two ways to give special incentives to a certain field: put it in the non-taxable category, or apply a tax rate of 0%. Choosing a tax rate of 0% contributes to higher incentive but increases management costs and mainly applies to exported goods and services.
Few countries choose to apply a tax rate of 0%, but instead, put this type of good in the non-taxable category. In the context of rising input prices, tight supply, and increasing demand, I strongly recommend the NA reconsider this regulation.
Fertilizer products need to be classified into chemical fertilizers and organic fertilizers. Organic fertilizers should be given a special VAT exemption along with many preferential policies, thereby gradually making Vietnamese agricultural production greener and cleaner.
Previously, with the majority of deputies in favor, the National Assembly passed a resolution approving the 2022 state budget settlement.
State President Tô Lâm received Cuban Ambassador to Vietnam, Orlando, Nicolas Hernandez Nguyen in Hanoi on June 24th. He stressed that Vietnam attaches great importance to strengthening the special historic relationship with Cuba, noting the cooperation between the two countries has been constantly strengthened amidst complex world developments. To further enhance comprehensive cooperation, the Vietnamese state president proposed that the two sides maintain visit exchanges and bring into full play cooperation mechanisms by effectively deploying agricultural development cooperation programs and promoting bilateral economic trade investment relations while further expanding into other fields where each other has strengths. Ambassador Orlando Nicolas Hernandez Nguyen extended the Cuban leaders' congratulations to State President Tô Lâm on his election as State President of Vietnam and said Cuba highly values Vietnam's rising global position. Vietnamese Prime Minister Phuc arrived at Chu International Airport near Dalian City, Liaoning Province on Monday. He is beginning his 4-day working trip to China, where he will also attend the 15th World Economic Forum WEF annual meeting of the new champions. This is the second time in a row that the Vietnamese Prime Minister has been invited by the World Economic Forum and China to take part in the meeting, showing the WEF and China highly value Vietnam's position, role, and contribution to global economic growth, as well as its development vision for the future economy. During his stay, Prime Minister Phuc will speak at WEF sessions, chair a dialogue session with leaders of major WEF corporations, alongside WEF founder and executive chairman Klaus Schwab, and host discussion with innovative businesses. He will also have bilateral meetings with country leaders, international organizations, and WEF businesses. In addition, the Vietnamese Prime Minister will meet with senior Chinese leaders and several large Chinese organizations and economic groups. On Monday afternoon, Prime Minister Phuc had a meeting with Chinese Premier Li Keqiang in Dalian City, Liaoning Province, China, on the occasions of the 15th World Economic Forum annual meeting of the new champions and working session in China. More to follow.
Chinese Premier Li Keqiang welcomed Prime Minister Pham leading the Vietnamese delegation to attend the WEF meeting in Dalian and work in China. Both sides exchanged greetings and wishes to top legislators. The two sides agreed to further promote and deepen the Vietnam-China Comprehensive Strategic Cooperative Partnership, building a community with a shared future that carries strategic significance. They also hope to expand cooperation, strengthening practical cooperation in all fields, hold friendly exchanges between localities and people's organizations, and maintain peace and stability in land and at sea. Prime Minister Pham recommended speeding up transport infrastructure connections, completing procedures to import Vietnamese frozen durian and fresh coconut as well as other products, and quickly establish the Vietnam Trade Promotion Offices in Chengdu, Haikou, and Nanjing. Additionally, the Prime Minister proposed that the two sides develop plans for the official waterfall landscape areas, and speed up the distribution of 1,000 scholarships for Vietnamese teachers teaching Chinese. In response to Prime Minister Pham's cooperation proposals, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang affirmed his readiness to deepen practical cooperation with Vietnam and affirmed China's commitment to opening its market for Vietnamese goods, especially agricultural and aquatic products and high-quality fruits, as well as creating favorable conditions for quarantine and customs clearance of goods. The two sides exchanged sincere and frank opinions on maritime issues, agreeing to affirm the importance of adequately controlling disagreements and maintaining peace and stability in the East Sea. Vietnamese Prime Minister requested both countries respect international law, especially UNCLOS 1982, and adequately handle the issue of fishing boats and the situation at sea. PM Pham Minh Chinh affirmed his consistent policy of persevering the One China policy, supporting China's active initiatives and suggested strengthening coordination and cooperation at regional and international forums.
On the occasion of his business trip to China, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh received the chair of Dalian Railway Rolling Stock Corporation and leader of China Power Constructions. More on the following story.
Receiving the chair of Dalian Railway Rolling Stock Corporation, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh emphasized that Vietnam and China need to further promote economic cooperation, including in the railway sector. Vietnam currently has more than 2,000 kilometers of railways with more than 300 stations, but in recent years, they have not effectively utilized. The Prime Minister proposed that the company work with Vietnam Railways Corporation and businesses to develop the railway industry in Vietnam and support the surveying of railway models, technology transfer, human resource training, capital resources, and developing urban railway lines in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, including a route connecting Hanoi Center with Hoa Lark High-Tech Park. The Prime Minister suggested that the two sides continue to implement specific cooperation projects to achieve efficiency, quality, and optimum progress.
Receiving the Vice Chair of China Power Construction, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh thanked the company for its $9 billion investment in Vietnam over the past 20 years and welcomed the corporation's plan to boost investment and diversify fields in Vietnam. The Prime Minister said that Vietnam is continuing to improve institutions and policy frameworks, including preparing to issue decrees on direct electricity trading mechanisms. He has also prepared to issue decrees on mechanisms and policies to encourage the development of self-generated and self-consumed rooftop solar power, and mechanisms to develop power projects using natural and LNG gas to attract investors in the energy sector. Vietnam welcomes and encourages foreign businesses with potential, experience, capital, engineering capabilities, and high technology to participate in research and cooperation on railway projects as agreed by leaders of the two countries.
Coming up next on VTV News, the State Bank of Vietnam extends debt payment terms to aid business recovery. And enterprises fewer to alter production boost export by year end. The State Bank of Vietnam has issued Circular 06 extending Circular 02 on rescheduling debt payments and maintaining debt groups for an additional 6 months. The new regulations allow these extensions to run until the end of 2024 rather than terminating on June 30th. This move aims to alleviate difficulties in debt payments and facilitate access to loans with guaranteed credit portfolios.
By the end of May, over 271,000 customers had their debt repayment terms restructured and retained the same debt group. SBV holds that the total value of principal and restructured interest is close to $9 billion.
We regularly reassess customers' operational status and revenue sources from business activities. This is to adjust repayment terms and amounts to align with their financial capacity.
This approach not only helps individuals and businesses adjust their debt repayment but also prevents their loans from being classified as bad debt. Consequently, they can maintain their credit scores and qualify for new loans from other credit institutions with low lending interest rates.
For individual customers, the lending rate is 6% or higher, and 6.5% for corporate customers. This allows for access to affordable capital sources and helps businesses recover and grow.
For credit institutions, Circular 02 mandates the determination of specific provisions for the entire outstanding debt of customers. It also requires full additional provisions by the end of the year.
Banks also encouraged to restructure input sources to minimize costs, thereby maintaining low output interest rates. Healthy bank growth generates good profits, improving the bad debt coverage ratio.
By the end of the first quarter, the bad debt ratio across the banking industry was 2.18%, below the acceptable 3%. As Circular 02 is extended and credit is promoted in the later half of this year, the dual goals of supporting business recovery and reducing bad debt pressure on the banking system is within sight.
In the first half of this year, Vietnam total trade turnover of goods is estimated to be close to $370 billion, marking a 16% increase over the same period last year. Trade balance remained positive with an estimated surplus of $8.4 billion. This achievement is notable in the context of significant market fluctuations, demonstrating the resilience of Vietnam's export enterprises.
Garment businesses have seen a surge in orders, with demand projected to stay strong until the year's end. This influx allows for greater flexibility in their production plans.
We've successfully fulfilled orders in as little as 10 days. We've earned customer trust for our quick delivery capabilities.
However, securing long-term, stable contracts, particularly with major brands, remains challenging. Industry associations report a sharp increase in businesses shifting from outsourced production to developing their own products. This strategy enables better long-term planning and helps mitigate market risks.
We are now compelled to enhance our workload, deepen customer relationships, and develop comprehensive product and supply chain management capabilities.
Exports in the first 6 months of the year are estimated at $198 billion, a 13.8% year-on-year. It demonstrates the efforts of both businesses and management agencies. Despite inflation and exchange rate pressures in many markets, Vietnamese goods secured an evolving presence in major markets.
Vietnam's exports to the U.S. rose by 22.4%, accounting for 30% of the country's total export turnover. This growth rate surpasses the average of 15%. Vietnam continues to lead among ASEAN countries, contributing over 33% of ASEAN's total export turnover.
Positive market signals are encouraging businesses to increase imports of raw and auxiliary materials for production. Support policies regarding capital, interest rates, taxes, and fees are now more crucial than ever to help businesses capitalize on growth opportunities until the end of the year.
About 3.3 million retired Vietnamese people will have their pension increased by 15% from July 1st, 2024, including those receiving pension from both compulsory and voluntary social insurance participation. This will mark the highest increase ever in these benefits. Vietnam Social Security has stated that the increase has been carefully calculated to ensure fairness and balance. The increase aims to harmonize the interests of pensioners and social insurance contributors, balancing the interests of the state and non-state sectors and ensuring generational equity. It also aims to maintain the long-term sustainability of the Social Security Fund. The number of dengue fever cases in the country is currently lower than the same period last year. However, the risk of an outbreak is still present if people do not proactively take epidemic prevention measures. In Bạc Liêu province, Hồng Dân district currently has the highest number of dengue fever cases in Bạc Liêu with 52 cases. This is because some people still have the habit of storing water in jars and pots for use, creating breeding grounds for mosquitoes. Therefore, the authorities advise people to independently kill larvae at home, as well as cover water containers. People are also advised to immediately go to the local medical center to receive timely treatment when symptoms appear. The authorities of information security under the Ministry of Information and Communication had just issued a warning about a new scam using iCloud disguised as money lending services. According to Hanoi police, to get a loan from these fake lenders, the borrower must have a new generation iPhone or iPad. The scammer will ask the borrower to log out of their iCloud account and enter the iCloud account using other links. While performing these operations, the user's iCloud account is at risk of being taken over by the scammer. The authorities of information security recommends that users need to choose reputable financial institutions and banks to borrow money and not online loan services. When encountering suspected scammer, it is necessary to report such incidents to the authorities for timely support and resolution. Last week, Tokyo hosted a forum to explore potential tourism cooperation between Vietnam and Japan. Expert managers and tourism businesses from both countries attended the event. More to follow.
The forum is a bridge to connect Vietnam and Japanese tourism enterprises and explore new cooperation opportunities. There's ample room to encourage Japanese tourists to visit Vietnam, yet unique tourism products are required to fully tap into its potential.
Many people I know say they want to travel to Vietnam, or those who have traveled to Vietnam say they want to return. With such a response, I believe Japanese tourists are becoming more likely to visit Vietnam.
According to the ambassador, Vietnam impresses tourists with its beautiful scenery, friendly people, and delicious cuisine. Traveling to Vietnam has also become convenient with several direct flights. However, it is necessary to improve infrastructure and public services to attract more international tourists.
I think Vietnam has a great natural environment and a good sales chain. However, the infrastructure, such as traffic, should be upgraded. Japanese tourists are afraid of crossing the streets due to complicated traffic. Public toilets should also be improved.
Due to the current unfavorable yen exchange rate, Japanese tourists are less likely to travel abroad. However, Vietnam has the advantage of lower prices than other markets, such as the US and Europe. As a result, the Vietnamese tourism industry holds great potential to attract more Japanese tourists with appropriate improvements.
Coming up next in our World News, ASEAN Family Day in New York celebrate blocked unity. And Summer Davos 2024 emphasizes green principles. The ASEAN Family Day was recently held in New York with the participation of the staff members and families of the permanent missions of 11 ASEAN countries party to the United Nations. The event attracted more than 1,000 participants. The ASEAN Family Day aimed at consolidating and raising public awareness of the ASEAN community, promoting university in diversity. Members brought to the event their traditional cuisine. The event promoted solidarity and friendship among ASEAN members through culture, sport, and culinary exchanges. At least 22 people have died after powerful explosions and fire at the lithium battery factory in South Korea on Monday. 18 Chinese nationals, 1 Laotian, 2 South Korean workers, and 1 unidentified were confirmed among the dead. The fire ripped through the building after a series of battery cells exploded inside a warehouse, local fire rescue reported. It quickly caught on to the 35,000 battery cell units stored in the warehouse at the time, preventing firefighting efforts. South Korean Minister of the Interior and Safety Lee Sang-min called on the local authorities to take steps to prevent any hazardous chemicals from contaminating the surroundings. The 15th World Economic Forum annual meeting of the new champion take place in Dalian City, China from June 25th to 27th. This year's event will feature a significant advancement in energy saving and carbon reduction solution by the host country. Under the theme New Horizons of Growth, The conference will welcome over 1,600 representatives from nearly 80 countries and territories. Primary focuses will be on energy conservation and carbon emission reduction. The main conference venue and auxiliary location will be powered entirely by green electricity, while the air conditioning system will utilize seawater cooling technology to enhance energy efficiency. Additionally, the event's organization strongly reflects the principles of sustainable development. Artificial intelligence is transforming human life, and some companies hope to be at the forefront of change. A UK-based technology company is integrating AI into warehouse management tools to boost operational efficiencies, a task that traditionally requires human labor.
Warehouse operations are reaching new heights thanks to these giant shelf-scanning robots developed by UK-based Dexery. The robots can patrol mega warehouses and use artificial intelligence to scan its surroundings. Dexery systems can capture millions of data points across multiple locations each day. That data is then used to build up a detailed 3D model of the warehouse.
They're about 12.5 meters tall, which gives them the ability, as they pass through the warehouse, to scan everything in one swift go, in one swift pass. So they have a number of cameras, they have a number of laser measurement systems on them, and this gives them the ability to create a digital copy of the rack.
A single battery-powered robot can scan warehouses of 1 million square feet in size and over 100,000 pallets in a day. It can then return autonomously to its charging station when needed. Global shipping and logistics company AP Moller Maersk partnered with Dexery in January 2023 with the aim to optimize warehouse management in the UK.
And now let's continue with the weather forecast. And that's it for this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can log on to VTVgo.vn or download a mobile application VTVgo. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.